Hi everybody. Whether you know almost nothing about photography or you're a fairly experienced topside photographer, the first time you take your camera underwater, I would really advise sticking with the basics, using a compact camera with no strobe or flash. Underwater photography presents special challenges. The water column takes away color, contrast, clarity. Light is often low, and you or your subjects are often moving. All right? You must navigate the dive site, check your gauges, monitor your dive buddy. You must then find a suitable subject, then approach the subject, and after all that, remember how to use all the controls on your housing. In this short video, I'm going to try to give what I think, and from my experience and my mistakes, are the most important tips for a first-time underwater photographer. Let's check it out. Okay, the first tip for underwater photography, the basics, is number one, be comfortable and be safe. It's really helpful if you're already a good, competent diver. Know the dive site, your dive buddy, and be comfortable. My favorite dives for underwater photography are dives that are shallow and familiar, dives that I have dived in the past, okay, with good visibility and preferably minimal current. I took this image of my dive buddy in fairly high current. It looks like she's hanging on for dear life. Not the best setting to carefully compose pictures and troubleshoot the various controls on your camera and housing, okay? Tip number two, practice with your camera topside, inside its housing. The more familiar you are with all the controls and settings on your camera on the housing, the better. Once you're underwater, you often have to multitask, and remembering how to work the various controls on your camera housing is often the first thing to go. Tip number three, never rush when setting up your camera. Take your time. It's nice if you can make your own short checklist, and I prefer to set up my camera in the hotel, not fool around with it on the dive boat. I have flooded 3 cameras, and in every case it was due to me rushing. Make sure the battery is charged and the memory card is in the camera too. And after you insert the camera into the housing, take some test shots topside to make sure everything is working. Dunk your camera into some fresh water if at all possible before jumping into the ocean. Tip number 4, technical aspects. There's 3 technical aspects to getting a good image. Proper exposure, proper focus of your subject, and minimizing the water column. Let's talk about exposure first. If you set your camera to auto mode, it will choose the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture to give you a proper exposure every time. However, you still have to kind of remember to keep the sun to your back or to your side, not in front, as in this image. Here, I had proper exposure, but the sun was behind the seahorse and my dive buddy, and the seahorse is in shadows. It's kind of silhouetted, not what I was going for. We need to have a clear image. We want to avoid a blurred image. And there's 2 aspects in that, okay? One is we have to focus on our subject. We have to learn how to depress the shutter halfway to allow it to autofocus on the subject. The center little focus box usually changes color. In my camera, it becomes green to show I've autofocused on the subject. Then I depress the shutter all the way to take the picture. It's best if you and the subject are relatively still so the distance doesn't change between your camera and subject by the time you focus on your subject and depress the shutter. Now the second aspect to a clear image is avoiding motion blur. Oh, by the way, in this image, I focused not on the subject, but my focus locked behind it. I can't even tell what that subject was I was shooting. It's so blurred. Now the second thing is we have to avoid motion blur. That's the blur that results from the camera or subject moving while the shutter is open. In bright light, the shutter speed is usually pretty fast and motion blur is not much of a problem. But in lower light, like in this image, the camera is off, it might be moving, or the subject could be moving, and we're going to get a blurred image. So try, if we're in low light, try to minimize your camera movement and try to find a subject that isn't moving too fast. And the third aspect to the technical aspects are reduce the water column. The water column robs us of color, contrast, and clarity, all right? It's important to stay shallow and get close to our subjects. The water column is how deep we are plus how far we are from our subject. This picture of a shark, it was about 30 or 40 feet depth and I was kind of far away from it. And the image is washed out. It's lost a lot of color and clarity. Very disappointing because of the water column. Whereas this image, I was close to this trunk fish. I've reduced the water column. I'm pretty shallow. This was at about 20 feet depth. And now I've got good color, clarity, and contrast. Let's talk about tip number 5, subject selection. It's important to find a subject that allows us to approach it with no damage to the reef. We want to respect all life. It's nice if we can lay on a sandy seafloor and not worry about damaging coral, and it's nice to take our time. I was in Roatan and a dive guide had found a seahorse, and several underwater photographers were lined up ahead of me taking shots. So by the time I got to it, it looked like some of the surrounding coral had been damaged, and the seahorse was clearly stressed out. I took a quick shot and then just swam away. Tip number 6, do not try to shoot everything. Subject selection is so important. When I used to go diving, I'd take pictures of 20 or 30 different subjects. I'd take pictures of everything. I got a lot of pictures, but I also got a lot of fish tails and a lot of boring snapshots. Now, I am very selective of what I even try to shoot. I try to find something that is approachable, where I will not damage the reef, with a good non-distracting background, keep my sun to the back or side, get low and shoot up, and then approach very slowly. If the subject allows, I will then work the subject. I will take shots from various distances and angles of approach. I'll try a horizontal versus a vertical format and really work the subject. So here, this one trunk fish, he was very cooperative as I approached him, and I got different images of this fish. All right, tip number 7. Review your images every day, if at all possible, so you can find any errors and make appropriate adjustments. I have found all kinds of problems that I have made, that I have missed. I've had a spot on my sensor. I accidentally shot JPEGs in the smallest size versus largest size. And here, I had the wrong white balance setting on my camera. Everything looked really green. So review your images every day and make adjustments if possible. And finally, tip number 8. Modify your image. I am not a Photoshop whiz, but I'll do judicious cropping, remove a little backscatter, adjust the color and contrast a little bit. Here's an image that I was almost going to hit the delete button because there was a diver to the right, there was something up at the top, and I said, let me just crop it. And also, the image was very blue and washed out. Well, I converted it to just gray, and I cropped it, so I cropped some of these distractions and the periphery off, and now it turns out I like this image. I have a nurse shark kind of close up with 2 of my dive buddies behind it. So don't forget to modify your image, even if you're not a Photoshop whiz. Okay, one last thing. Just show your best images. There's nothing more, no one wants to see 50 images of 3 to 5 different subjects, okay? Just show a handful, maybe 4 to 6 of your very best shots. Whether you know nothing about photography or you're a fairly experienced topside photographer, being underwater with your camera and housing for the first time presents special challenges. I would advise the first time you take your camera underwater, stick with the basics. Use a compact camera, no strobe or flash. And I sure hope you found these tips helpful. Thanks for your attention.